next speaker is Mr. Kamal Bali, President and MD, Volvo Group India, who has an illustrious career spanning nearly 4 decades, predominantly in the automotive industry. Mr. Bali has worked in various roles during the formative years of his career. He's worked in the functional areas of sales, marketing, supply chain, and before taking over P&L responsibilities in the year 2002, prior to spearheading the Volvo Group in India, Kamal was working as President and CEO of Singapore Technology, STK in India, establishing the brand Lee Boyle. Mr. Kamal is a thought leader, a speaker at various national and international forums and holds other leadership roles such as Chairman of Swedish Chamber of Commerce India SCCI and immediate past Chairman of CII Karnataka. With an amassed wealth of knowledge, he is a man on a vision who enjoys helping youth who have the potential and passion to make India proud. We have Mr. Kamal Bali here with us today, who's going to talk about making Indian manufacturing globally competitive. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause and welcome Mr. Kamal Bali.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to this lady for a very generous introduction. I hope I can live up to that introduction. This is a very special day for me. In spite of some very competing engagements, I am here today only for 2 reasons. I believe in the culture of manufacturing. I believe that manufacturing is the future of this country, and without manufacturing we have very, very serious socio-economic problems on hand. And the second reason is I cannot say no to Ravi. When I was the vice chairman of CII Karnataka, Ravi used to be the chairman, and I still call him my chairman. So thank you, Ravi. I am here, and this topic is really, really very close to my heart. I had a presentation, but I decided that I will speak from my heart. Instead of making a presentation, I will share the presentation with you all subsequent to this. But I just want to have a few points up in my mind which I really wanted to share with you and come across. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, then probably spend 10 minutes to share your reflections if possible. We will try and see if this format works, but nonetheless, we will try that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that India is at a cusp of a very major socio-economic transformation. I think what we are going through over the last few years and what we are going to see over the next 5 years is probably we have not seen in the last 50 years. So the level of transformation is humongous. There are very good signs in terms of economy. You can see, in spite of the CAD, current account deficit, today slightly wobbly because of depreciation of the rupee and high crude oil prices. Our macros are by and large very healthy and stable, whether it is a fiscal deficit, whether it is the inflation level, whether it is the foreign exchange deposits. I think our situation is very, very healthy and good, so there is nothing to worry. So I think a couple of things, in spite of all of this, we are living in a very, very complex and uncertain world. I want to just take a step back before I really come on manufacturing, just to share with you 5 trends which we really need to be taking cognizance of to stay ahead of the world. I think that is something very, very important. Today, something which keeps CEOs awake is technology. You do not know when you get up in the morning, you might have been disrupted. Somebody could have disrupted your business model or your technology and you may be out of business. So I think technology is something which keeps CEOs awake today. But let me look at what are the 4 or 5 trends which are really going to define how the world is going to shape up, because we are living in such an uncertain world that we do not have a clear recipe or an SOP of what to do at every point in time. But we therefore need to know the trends, what could actually shape our world. The first is digitalization, which all of you know. We need to really stay ahead of digitalization. Everything is going to get digital. Whether it is our products, our processes, our customer outreach, everything is becoming digital. I think that is the first thing which we need to. I will not go into depth of all of these, but I will just share these thoughts with you in terms of some bullet points. The second is, very, very critically, rapid urbanization. Now this is a huge opportunity as well as a challenge. Opportunity, because if you look at 1950, 30% of the people in the world in 1950 lived in cities. By 2050, 70% of the world will live in the cities. In India itself, over the next 30 to 35 years, you will have 40 crore people moving from rural India into urban India. Imagine the pace and the intensity of this change, which means in the next 30 to 35 years, India is going to create a country of the size of America from rural India into urban area. Look at the dynamics of this. This poses several opportunities as well as challenges to all of us. So that's the second important point. The third is, customers today do not want products. They want solutions. They want you to solve your problem and give a solution to your problem. They don't care how you get it, who you get it from. So what does this mean? That arrogance of companies will be gone. You will need to collaborate. Companies, big or small, will need to collaborate. Nobody will be able to deliver a 360-degree solution to a customer by himself alone. So that is true of any brand in the world. So you will have to collaborate, which means the huge chance for SMEs, MSMEs, entrepreneurs, innovators, new idea generators to really come and collaborate with large companies. The fourth to my mind is skills, is new skills. This is a very, very scary but a very interesting thought as well. The skills of today most of the skills of today are going to become useless 5 or 10 years down the line. The skills which will be required 10 years from now, maybe they don't even exist today. None of us know what are those skill sets required. So that's the fourth point to me, very, very important. How do you really get on top of the skill set which we need for our people? The fifth and the most important point is sustainability. This is going to drive whatever we do, which means that whatever you do has to be economically viable, socially inclusive, and environmentally friendly. So I think these are the 5 things to my mind: rapid urbanization, digitalization, customer wanting 360-degree solutions, new skill sets, and the era of sustainability where there is going to be a huge new narrative which is already happening, and huge lot of noise on sustainable behaviors, whether it comes to people, society. You can't really touch and say that, oh, I am in this particular segment, I am in the creamy segment, I am in the premium segment. You will have to touch the bottom of the pyramid to stay afloat. I think that is something very important to my mind. India's story is absolutely robust and ready for the next level of acceleration. Why? Because of a few reasons. Number one, our young and aspirational population is the highest in the world. We are more than 63% of Indians are below the age of 34. This is higher by 20 percentage points than any other country in the world. Number two, we have an expanding middle class. Middle class is, in this kind of context, is defined as people earning between 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs annually. And that used to be 11% of our population in 2009. Today it is 33% of our population. The middle class is expanding, which means the consumption story is really going to come up in a big way. The third is real consumption growth, 2012 versus 2019. In every sector you pick up is grown phenomenally. The fourth is investment and savings of the country are almost 30% of the GDP, which is a very, very good sign. And I think, as I said, strong and stable macros. But while we may be clearly the largest, fastest growing large economy, we have some legacy challenges which we really need to really get on top of it. I think 2-3 things which are very clear is our infrastructure development. We always have supply side constraints because of lack of infrastructure or inadequate infrastructure. Second is the culture of manufacturing. Manufacturing is not seen as glamorous. And I think this is a key point, and I'm really very grateful to BFW for really starting this, I would say, a noble cause, a laudable cause on manufacturing, because we have to create this culture of manufacturing. If you look at all countries which are strong economically today, whether it's Germany, Japan, South Korea, China, it is manufacturing which has anchored these countries for 30 to 40 years. Manufacturing has anchored the economies of these countries. So whether it is all these countries, between 25 to 30% of their GDP is manufacturing, whereas India is just 17% of GDP is our manufacturing, which is something to really worry about, especially for the kind of population and the large population which we have. So therefore, manufacturing has to become the centerpiece of our narratives, the centerpiece of our conversation. In fact, we were a few weeks ago, we were talking to an economist. He says, well, you guys are from manufacturing, oh, you guys are still alive. I said, yeah, why? Yeah, we are alive and kicking. We are growing at a good pace. He says, no, but I'm talking more at a longer level, at a larger level, to say that everything is stacked against manufacturing in India. Whether it is the interest cost, whether it is the capital cost, whether it is the political cost, whether it is the land cost, whether it is the number of approvals which you need to take. Manufacturing has to go through maximum number of hardships and hurdles before actually it can take. So therefore, a lot of people stay away from manufacturing. It is not seen as glamorous as a service industry. We need to change that culture. We at Volvo, we took an initiative of going a step higher, and I'm very happy to see a lady here, lady leader in manufacturing. We went to Kendriya Vidyalaya and we met these class 11 and 12 girls and told them that you all have to come into manufacturing, and we made them spend 1 week in our factories to say manufacturing is not all that bad as you all think. It can be as interesting and as other things are. So I think that's something which we really need to do, and manufacturing that way is to that extent is very important. The other good news for India is that we have really done very well in IT and IT enabled services. Manufacturing or industry 4.0 is a good hybrid between the conventional manufacturing and the ITES. So this gives us a possibility to leapfrog in a very good way, that we don't have to go through all the steps which Germany and China and Korea went through. So India has a chance of leapfrogging, like we leapfrog like we are going to leapfrog from Euro 4 emission norms to Euro 6. We are not going to touch Euro 5. So I think those are the opportunities which India has in this current age. So I think that is something which we need to touch upon. The other thing, for India to become a global power in manufacturing, which is very critical, because I must also share one more data with you. Our share in manufacturing in the global world is 2% of the entire world manufacturing, whereas China is 24%, which our population is 17% or 16% of the world population, which means we are punching much below our weight. We are 16%, but we only contribute 2% to the global manufacturing. I think these are numbers which scare you which stare at you, and we really need to look at it. So what will change this scenario? I think a few things which we said. One is the culture. So all of us, we are a very small fraternity of manufacturing. We all have to play a role. We all have to wear two hats. One hat is of our companies, where we do our work. The other hat is of promoting manufacturing. And that's the thing which I have decided I will do, just like Ravi and his company are doing. And I request all the stalwarts of manufacturing sitting in this room to please lend a helping hand to this great industry of the future. And this is not going to be the same industry. This is not the Fiat and Ambassador types of manufacturing. This is a completely new manufacturing which is quite glamorous and which is quite interesting. The second is, we need to identify which are those 10 or 15 sectors of economy where India can become number 1 or number 2 in the world in the next 10 years. Those have been identified. CII has done a lot of work on that. And I think we can really then drive manufacturing. And this could be from the existing industries, it could be from the emerging industries, it could be from the disruptive industries. So I think this is the second thing which we need to do. The third is, as a recipe of success, we need to look at 3 pillars. Number 1 is domestic ecosystem. The second is firm level competitiveness. And third is the global ecosystem. So what is the domestic ecosystem? I talked about all the costs which are put on manufacturing, all the hurdles, we got to remove that. We call it ease of doing business, but I say please remove hurdles from manufacturing. Please give manufacturing a special status. Anybody getting into manufacturing, you should give him a pat in the back and say, come, we are with you. Plug and play methods have to be there. He should not be worrying about land acquisition, 20 different forms for different compliances. Make it simple for manufacturing. Give him a helping hand. So that's the first domestic ecosystem. The ease of doing business, brand India has to come in. That is another very, very important. I will come back to this point in a minute. The second is firm level competitiveness, which means what internally companies must do. What are the best practices in forums like these? We must discuss what are the best practices. What are those 4 or 5 P's of process improvement, product improvement, people improvement, and perpetual improvement? What are those things which we could do on a systematic basis to take India to a level of quality which is international? We don't build substandard products for India and great products for export. One quality standard, harmonious standard, single quality standard. That is a mindset shift which we need. So, firm level competitiveness will come through number of things like we all do, the Kaizens, the new technologies, product improvement, process improvement, and buying the best equipment to improve the processes in the company. The third is global ecosystem. There, the government has to play a big role. Get us market access. Sign the right FTAs with other countries in the world. We can't be 2% of global manufacturing. It's a shame. 16% of Indians, 2% of global manufacturing, not acceptable. No way is it acceptable. So I think that is the third. So these 3 pillars we need to work on: domestic ecosystem, firm level competitiveness, best in class practices, benchmark with the best. Don't say we will cater to only this segment. We will cater to every segment. World is a market. So I think that is the second thing which can take manufacturing to a different level. Then of course, I'm not going to talk about the factories of tomorrow, which is the additive manufacturing, robotics, and agile product development. I think there are many expert speakers who are going to talk about. But one thing I'm going to talk about, and probably the last thing in my talk here, is the brand India. I think this is very, very important. When you think of a product made in Germany, what do you say? What do you think? Great quality? It will be a great quality. It may be expensive, but great quality product. That's the association you have, irrespective of the company in Germany. When you say made in Germany, you associate with great quality and high price. When you think of a product made in China, what do you associate with? What do you associate with that? Cheap quality, cheap price. Okay? I mean, not very reliable quality or not a longevity in terms of product, but and probably cheap price. When you talk of made in India, I think we have a huge void there. There is no clear message coming. So to me, there is an opportunity. We can say made in India is value for money. Made in India is value manufacturing. We give the customer what he wants. at a good price. And value is something very, very important. So this value, premium to cheap and value. I think this value segment, there's a huge void and India can fill that void. And I think if we can start thinking on those lines, I think we have a great future for that. Therefore, my only one regret with manufacturing, and including me, because I have been in manufacturing industry for the last 37 years, we never pay attention to brand building. Brand building is very, very critical. It's no rocket science, it's simple things, but you have to consciously build brands. What is brand? Brand is equal to a product. Plus, product means your features, your quality, what is the value proposition, plus the user experience over the lifetime of that product, which is over the next 10 years, what does a user go through in terms of your product, whether it's from the time he buys the product till the time he disposes of that product. How is his experience? That's the second part of the brand element. And the third part is the emotive connect. As I said, emotive connect. You think of a Lifebuoy soap, suddenly you get some thoughts in your mind. You think of Germany, you get a particular perception in your mind. So I think those are the kind of perceptions which we need to create. And I think if we can do all of these things and we get the government support, each one of us has to put our best foot forward. Government alone cannot solve this problem. I think we will solve a lot of socio-economic problems of this country. And I think we will be a country which everybody would want to aim, because we have the youngest population, expanding middle class, highest consumption. We could be a country with highest consumption in the world if we wish to. So I think with those positives, manufacturing is actually a very, very obvious choice. We need young boys and girls to really start looking at manufacturing in a big way. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I stop here. Thank you all very much for listening to me. And I would really open the floor if Ravi, if 5 minutes are permitted. Are 5 minutes permitted? Or are we behind schedule? Okay. So, any reflections, anything which we can share at this point in time? Yeah.
Spoke about glamorizing manufacturing.
Yeah.
Factories have workers. Our IT sector glamorize our workforce. But nothing seems to be happening on the manufacturing side. Workers are workers and they are looked down upon. Nobody is willing to come into factories for work. How do you glamorize?
Exactly. I think very, very good point which you made. I would like you to invite you to Volvo. Please come and see how we can glamorize it. I think what we need is a culture shift. It's a mindset shift. I think that's the key. You need to make certain cultural changes, not structural changes. You need to make some cultural changes where everybody is seen at equal level, at par with each other. Each job has its value, and each guy on the shop floor is connected with the end customer. I think if you can do that, he gets tremendous sense of pride. I think we need to bring that sense of pride in people, that this action of mine of tightening this nut or bolt how does it help the customer, or how does it help in the final outcome. These are some of the things. I think getting that association of pride with what a man does or a lady does is something very, very critical. That is one of the things. Other is, of course, many other steps. We can discuss this offline. And what we do at Volvo and what many other companies do much better things than even us. So I think we can follow some of these best practices, and these do not add to cost. These do not add to cost. It's just a culture shift. And I think this is the key. How do we make it glamorous is very, very important. And catch them young. Catch these boys and girls in class 11 and 12 and tell them, you are going to be our interns, you are going to come to manufacturing. To showcase to them what manufacturing is, you will have to do certain things which attract them to it. So put that pressure on yourselves to create some good examples for youngsters to come in. Yeah.
Good morning. You talked about the high cost of capital.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, manufacturing involves reasonable amount of investment. How we should go about this?
No, absolutely. This is exactly what I said, that so many things are stacked up against manufacturing. The interest cost, the capital cost, the cost of starting a business, the political cost. So I think everything is stacked up against us in manufacturing. So we as a team, as a fraternity, need to really raise these issues up front, and I'm sure governments will listen to us if we have a good, complete value proposition. I think we need some rebates when it comes to interest, and I think governments are giving, but it is in bits and pieces here and there. We need to have a very, very clear plan of invest. Like today, a lot of companies are going in for capital investment. We are in the second phase of now expansion. Most of the manufacturing sector, at least in the automotive sector. So we need a lot of investments. What curbs our investments? Instead of 500 crores, we say, okay, let me do 300 crores, is basically the interest cost and the access to capital. I think this is an important point. We have to really, this is one of the top issues for which is an inhibitor to manufacturing.
To take from 2 to 16%, my personal opinion is that we need to attack this first.
Yes.
First we have to attack this.
Absolutely. But government has done some, government has opened some new ECB routes where you can get 3 to 4% interest rate, and if you add the hedging cost of another 3%, so you can get at about 6% today. But I think that itself is also high. We need somewhere around 4 to 4.5%. Then I think manufacturing will be at a good state.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Mr. Ravi Raghavan, MD BFW, to felicitate Mr. Kamal Bali.